The night my wife's stepbrother got back in the country, I found the vibrator in her purse. I laughed a cold, dead sound in the empty room and swapped it for a high-voltage stun gun. In the middle of the night, a scream like a pig being slaughtered echoed from the master bedroom. I'd been out of town for a few days on business. When I dragged my exhausted body home, Chloe and Leo were lounging comfortably on the sofa, watching some trashy reality show. She was in a thin nightgown, and the air was thick with a strange, cloying scent. The dining table was a wasteland of takeout containers and half-eaten food. A tower of unwashed dishes sat in the sink, a cloud of fruit flies buzzing over it. The floor was littered with crumpled napkins and discarded food wrappers, the once gleaming hardwood filmed over with a layer of grime. Seeing me, they both jumped, awkwardly shifting apart. It was clear they hadn't expected me back so soon. Ryan, Leo stammered, his voice trembling slightly. "You're back." Chloe's voice was flat, betraying no emotion, just as if it were any other day. "There are some leftovers on the table. After you eat, you can do the dishes." "Eat." I stared at the swarm of flies dancing over the cold, greasy food, and my stomach churned. After all these years of marriage, it was like I was seeing this woman for the first time. "And after you do the dishes, mop the floor." "Leo and I are going to the gym for a couple of hours," she said. Before I could answer, she'd already gone back to the bedroom, emerging moments later in yoga pants. She looped her arm through Leo's and headed for the door. My face was a stone mask as I stepped in front of them. "Chloe, don't you think you two are a little too close? People are going to talk." Chloe shoved me aside, her eyes flashing with anger. "He's my stepbrother, Ryan. What the hell is wrong with your head?" Leo sheepishly pulled his arm from her grasp. "Yeah, man, you're being a little paranoid." "Don't listen to him. He's losing it," Chloe muttered, dragging Leo out the door and slamming it behind him. I was left alone in the living room, with nothing but the garbage and the buzzing of flies for company. What the hell had I married? I sank onto the sofa, pressing my fingers to my temples. That's when I saw it. Chloe's purse sitting on the cushion. Some dark impulse took over. I reached for it and pulled the zipper open. Inside, nestled among her things, was a vibrator. The packaging was gone. It had been used. The sight hit me like a physical blow. A brutal, invisible hand squeezed my heart, a pain so sharp it stole my breath. We'd been married for years, and I knew for a damn fact she hadn't bought that for me. I couldn't believe it, couldn't accept that Chloe would use something like this behind my back. But a quick search on my phone for the model confirmed it. The truth was as cold and hard as the screen in my hand. As much as I wanted to deny it, the evidence was ironclad. Chloe was cheating on me. And was it with Leo? My face darkened as I dug through her purse, searching for more proof. Soon, I pulled out a red iPhone. This wasn't her usual phone. She always made a big deal about supporting American tech, claiming she'd never use an overpriced iPhone. If I remembered correctly, this was a gift from Leo when he returned from his trip abroad. My hand shook as I turned it on and entered a passcode. Her birthday. Wrong. My birthday. Wrong. Pathetic. Why was I even trying my own birthday? I typed in the date Leo came back to the country. It unlocked. Of course. The messaging app had another lock on it. I tried Leo's birthday. It opened. I froze, my finger hovering over the screen. Maybe I didn't need to go any further. Everything, every single detail, was screaming that they were together. Leo had been back for 3 months. Their behavior had been way too intimate, completely unnatural, and I, like a complete idiot, had been blind to it all. But I had to see it. I had to kill that last, desperate sliver of hope. With a trembling hand, I opened their chat history. His contact name was just Leo. But the messages sent me plunging into an abyss of ice. "Leo, when are you coming back? I can't stand the smell of that slob anymore. Every day he comes home, it feels like I'm walking into a tomb. Leo, please come back soon." On the day Leo returned, I was home and had video called Chloe. She'd said she was helping him check into a hotel, that our place was too small, and she didn't want him to be uncomfortable. "Leo, are you at the airport yet? I'm waiting for you at the hotel." "Chloe, I brought you something new for my trip." "Ooh, I can't wait." "Chloe, I miss you like crazy." The 20th. That was the day we were taking photos for our 3rd wedding anniversary. "Chloe, why aren't you with me today? Are you with that pig? Send me a video, Chloe. I'm waiting for you downstairs from the photo studio." "Chloe, won't he get suspicious if I just move in with you?" "Chloe, living with you is fucking awesome." The last message still sitting there was from him. "I bought that new toy. Let's try it tonight." Bile rose in my throat. I felt like I was going to be sick. That Chloe, my Chloe, could say such disgusting things. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I had thought she was just a little lazy, that she didn't like doing housework, but that deep down, she loved me. She'd always defended me to her parents. When we got married, She hadn't demanded a lavish wedding or a huge ring. Now I saw it all. Marrying me was just a cover. Her real goal was to be with Leo. Those two bastards. They were probably together long before she even met me. The shamelessness of it all. I was just a pawn in their sick, manipulative game. My gaze turned to ice. Fine, Chloe. You want to play dirty. Then don't blame me for what comes next. I went to my go bag and pulled out a stun gun. It was the same size and shape as the vibrator, capable of discharging over 300,000 volts in an instant. I kept it on me for self-defense during my business trips. Then I called her parents and relatives. I invited them to Port Collins for a little vacation, all expenses paid. Flights, hotel, food, everything on me. Hearing an offer like that, they wouldn't miss it for the world. For years, they've been looking for ways to bleed me dry, still bitter about the modest wedding. I gave them a specific date and told them I'd pick them up from the airport myself. In that moment, I felt like a monster they had created. I photographed all the evidence, then put Chloe's purse back exactly as I found it. Just as I finished, there was a knock at the door. Through the peephole, I saw Chloe, her face etched with anxiety. I quickly threw on an apron and pretended to be cleaning. "Honey, I forgot my purse. Just came back to get it," she said, her voice tight with panic. She walked to the sofa, grabbed the bag, and immediately opened it to see if anything was out of place. Suddenly, the vibrator tumbled out and landed on the floor. She froze, her body stiff with shock. A mortified blush spread across her face. "Honey," she stammered, snatching it up. It's a stun gun. For self-defense. You're gone so much, I don't feel safe by myself." I nodded, my expression unreadable. "A stun gun? Good. Later, I'll give you a real one. Your words, not mine." "I'm tired. You can clean up the rest of this mess," I said, pulling off the apron and heading into the guest room. Maybe it was guilt, or maybe she was just thrown off, but for once, Chloe agreed without a fight. I locked the door behind me and put my phone on silent. With me in the house, they wouldn't dare try anything. Leo went to his room early. Chloe knocked on my door a few times, but I told her I was too tired and to leave me alone. The next day, after they both left, I installed a set of Nest cams with full audio recording. No blind spots. Then I sent Chloe a text. "Have to go out of town for a week. Emergency." That evening, I rented a large passenger van and picked up Chloe's parents and relatives from the airport. Hearing it was a free, all-inclusive vacation, a whole van full of them showed up. Even some twice-removed great-uncle I'd never met was there. It looked like half the family group chat had decided to come. Perfect. Just what I wanted. Chloe's mother, Karen, was already bragging to everyone about me. How I'd started my own company at such a young age, and what a brilliant decision it was for her to let her daughter marry me without a big fuss. Frank, Chloe's stepfather, wasn't her biological dad, but he was soaking up the reflected glory, puffing his chest out and spinning tales to the other old-timers, just short of calling me his own son. I took them all to a nice restaurant and, once they were settled, slipped out the back. Knowing it was all on my dime, they ordered lobster, steak, and bottles of expensive wine like it was water. Frank even climbed up on a chair to lead a drunken round of toasts with his cronies, completely oblivious to my departure. Pay the bill? Not a chance in hell. On my way out, I even snagged 2 cartons of premium cigarettes they'd left on the table. These scumbags, related to those 2 animals, they weren't getting another cent from me. She was the cheap one, not me. Knowing I was out of town, Chloe and Leo came home early. I watched them on my phone's camera feed, the audio crystal clear. I leaned in, listening intently. "Chloe, is that slob really gone again?" Leo's voice was a low whisper, excitement barely contained. "Not like me. If you were my girl, I'd never leave you." Chloe snorted. "Don't even mention him. He's such a buzzkill." "So, tonight?" Leo hesitated. "I don't know. The way he was looking at me today felt weird." "What are you afraid of?" Chloe laughed it off. "When I said I was on a business trip, I never came back early. Yesterday was a fluke. Besides, this time I was supposedly going to San Francisco. That was a week minimum." Leo's excitement returned. "Chloe, I heard you bought something new." Chloe giggled and pushed him playfully. "You're impossible. Come on." She purred, still laughing as she pulled him into the bedroom. A thick vein throbbed in my temple. My hand tightened around my phone, nearly cracking the screen. Those 2 bastards, right under my own roof. I want to storm in there right now and tear them both apart with my bare hands. I took a long, slow breath, forcing the rage down. Then I picked up my phone and dialed Chloe's mother. "Frank, Karen, it's Chloe. She's on the balcony. I think she's going to jump. You have to come now." I clutched the phone, forcing a sob, making my voice crack with panic. It was a convincing performance. "Ryan, what's happening? Why would Chloe want to do something like that?" Karen sounded frantic on the other end. "I don't know. I just got to the parking lot and saw her standing on the ledge. I yelled, pouring every ounce of fake desperation I had into it. Hearing that Chloe was about to jump, a chaotic clamor erupted on their end of the line. The whole damn family decided to come along. About 10 minutes later, back on my monitor, a blood-curdling scream suddenly tore through the apartment, so loud it seemed to shake the screen. "Oh, Chloe. What? What did you do?" Leo's voice was a terrified, trembling mess. I don't know. Chloe stammered back, her own voice distorted as her body convulsed. It's electric. Holy shit." Leo sounded like he was about to cry, his eyes rolling back in his head. "Get it off," he screamed. I can't find a switch." Chloe shrieked, but the current surging through her body only made her twitch and seize uncontrollably. A thin wisp of smoke curled into the air. Even through the screen, I could almost smell something burning. By this time, I was already riding the elevator up. Her parents and the flock of relatives were even faster. They were already crowded outside my apartment door when I arrived, along with building security and a few neighbors who'd been woken by the noise. The hallway was packed. A security guard stepped forward. "Mr. Miller, thank God you're here. We've been getting noise complaints from your unit. It's disturbing the other residents." He looked confused, seeing me walk out of the elevator. "Mr. Miller, did someone break into your apartment?" A neighbor immediately piped up. "No way. I definitely heard a man and a woman in there." That comment was a bomb. A wave of pitying looks washed over me. The poor husband, working himself to the bone, only to come home and find his place has been invaded. And not just invaded, but caught red-handed by security and the whole neighborhood. It was public humiliation of the highest order. Frank and Karen's faces were grim. "Don't talk nonsense," Frank snapped. "My daughter is just under a lot of stress. She was just letting off some steam." That's right. The relatives chimed in, trying to wave people away. Everyone disperse. Nothing to see here. But the crowd didn't budge. Just then, another soul-shattering scream echoed from inside. Necks craned, everyone trying to get a better look. "Mr. Miller, you should probably open the door and see what's going on," the guard urged. Now Frank and Karen were agitated too. "Son, open the door. Hurry." I sighed, pretending to struggle with the key. "All right, I guess everyone should see this together." The door swung open with a loud click. The crowd froze, as if struck by lightning. They were on the bed, thrashing, convulsing, locked together. The hallway erupted. "Holy shit, is that some kind of kinky electro play? Jesus Christ, can you even do that? They're gonna fry their junk. That poor bastard, the husband. This is worse than just being cheated on. Keep your voice down, he's right there." I switched on the waterworks, my acting skills going into overdrive. I lunged forward, wailing, "Honey, what are you two doing? I can't live like this. It's all over. Oh God, just kill me now." I howled, my voice thick with anguish. Frank and Karen's faces were as red as baboons' asses. They looked like they wanted the floor to swallow them whole. Now the relatives were in an uproar. I always said those two were weirdly close, but you wouldn't believe me. How was I supposed to know they were this shameless? They've disgraced the entire family. I could just die. What kind of parents raise children like this? Every venomous whisper reached Frank and Karen's ears. Their faces cycled through shades of red and white. The security guard awkwardly helped me up from where I'd collapsed on the floor. "Mr. Miller, maybe you should try to help them. I think your wife is in pretty bad shape." "Right, help them." "Of course." I scrambled to my feet, looking around frantically. In the corner of the living room, I spotted a heavy, solid wood curtain rod. It had some decent heft to it, at least 10 pounds. I walked over to Frank, holding out the thick rod with a look of profound sorrow. "Dad, maybe you should do it." Frank looked like he was about to have a stroke, his face a deep shade of purple. He just waved his hands frantically, refusing. "Fine, I'll do it myself." I wiped away a non-existent tear. "Honey, I'm coming to save you." I swung the rod. It connected with a sickening thud. Oh, sorry. I missed," I said, my voice full of apology. It was my first time doing this, after all. "Honey, I'll get it right this time, I promise." I hefted the wooden rod again, spat in my hands, and rubbed them together for a better grip. Whack, another dull thud. This time, it was Chloe's body that jerked violently. The buzzing of the electricity grew louder, and I could see steam rising off her skin. "Help! Me!" Chloe's voice was a broken whisper. Turns out I'd missed again. I'd hit the stun gun's power switch, kicking it into high-intensity mode. "Dude, you missed, and missed." A more powerful current exploded between them, and a shower of electric sparks crackled in the air. A distinct smell of burnt meat filled the room, making people gag and cover their mouths. "Ryan, Please, help me. Save us. Gonna help. Their voices were nothing but trembling gasps. Leo looked like he was about to suffocate. Sorry, I'm just so nervous, I stammered, wiping away imaginary sweat from my brow. I raised the rod. Once. Twice. I must have swung it dozens of times. And somehow, I never once hit the stun gun. Leo and Chloe's faces were swollen into unrecognizable masks. It was all my fault. My technique was just so clumsy. Finally, the stun gun's battery died. But the area where it had been, it was just a charred, blackened mess. I don't know if it can be fixed. Chloe and Leo had passed out. At this point, even if they were conscious, they'd have to pretend to be. The whole damn family was watching. Plenty of people had their phones out, recording videos, uploading them live. The wail of an ambulance siren cut through the night as it pulled into the complex, drawing even more curious residents to their windows. By the time the videos hit the building's resident group chat, the place went wild. A whole new wave of gawkers was on their way over. As they were being loaded onto stretchers, they must have regained some consciousness. With what little strength they had, they pulled the bed sheets over their heads. Frank rushed up to one of the paramedics. Doctor, is my son going to be okay? Doctor, please look at my daughter. She's all burnt. Doctor. The paramedic, annoyed, finally snapped. Can't you see for yourself? It's charcoal. You want my badge? You be the doctor. Frank and Karen just stood there, speechless, their faces burning with shame as more and more neighbors swarmed in. Phones held high. Cameras flashing. A newcomer whispered to his friend, Hey man, what happened? Ugh, it's brutal. Totally fried. What do you mean? The guy, sensing a scoop, shoved his phone forward, trying to get a picture of their faces. But they were covered. I instantly slipped back into character. I lunged toward the stretchers, pretending to sob uncontrollably. Chloe, Leo, you have to be okay. What will I do without you? I cried, my voice a symphony of despair. I beat my fists against the side of the gurney. A nurse tried to gently pull me away. In my grief-stricken state, my hand accidentally snagged the sheet covering Chloe's face, yanking it off completely. Her pale, blackened face was exposed for all to see. The crowd surged forward, and the sheet was instantly trampled underfoot. Phones flashed, capturing everything. Holy shit, this is going to be the top story in the city tomorrow. Don't worry, I'm boosting this on TikTok. It's going viral for sure. So shameless. And I heard their parents and relatives are right here. That's them over there. The sea of phones turned toward Frank, Karen, and the rest of the family. Now, they really looked like they wanted to die. Their first time in the spotlight, and it was for this. Stop filming. All of you, stop filming. I shouted, pretending to shield Chloe. How is my wife supposed to live her life after this? What company will ever hire her? This video is going to end up all over the world. In the chaos, my eyes darted to the sheet covering Leo. Don't you dare. Frank roared, but it was too late. I snatched the sheet off Leo. He was completely exposed to the crowd. That's the guy. Quick, get a shot. Everyone's attention snapped to him, the camera flashes focusing on the charred ruin between his legs. What's that weird smell? Is he cooked? Ha ha. I'm already sending this to my workgroup chat. Leo stared at me with an expression of pure, hopeless despair. His body was paralyzed. He could only watch as I stripped him of his last shred of dignity. I gave him a look of profound apology. Sorry, bro. Your sister's a bit more sensitive. Had to take care of her first. Karen had collapsed against a stretcher, her wails lost in the cacophony. My boy, my daughter, what happened to you? Maybe her tears were real, but who cared? Everyone was too busy filming. A doctor pulled me aside. You're the family, right? He asked quietly. I nodded quickly. Yes. The patient's conditions are not good. You should come to the hospital. We'll need you to sign some documents. No problem. Their parents are here too. The doctor gave me a long, deep look, one filled with an almost profound sympathy, then clapped a hand on my shoulder. Soon, they were both whisked away to the hospital. Frank, Karen, and a few of the older family members followed. They sat on a bench outside the emergency room, fidgeting as if they were sitting on pins and needles. They couldn't meet my eyes, just stared at the floor. I stood by the door, chain-smoking one cigarette after another. I could hear the nurses whispering. Did you hear? Those two are the ones from that video online. I saw it. There are clips everywhere. I heard one of the doctors say the guy's probably a lost cause. The woman's in bad shape too. They said she was literally cooked. City folk are wild. Hearing the nurses chatter, the family members hunched over even further, like a shamed quail. Finally, a doctor came out looking serious. Who's the family? I am. We are. Frank, Karen, and I all answer at once. The doctor glanced at us, seeing we were all there. Frank and Karen looked at me apologetically, about to say something, but the doctor cut them off. The patients are in critical condition. Their faces tightened. I just stood there with a cold smirk, waiting for him to continue. The woman, Chloe, her situation is extremely severe. There's complete necrosis of the muscle tissue. Some of the nerves. They're cooked through. Karen looked frantic. What do we do? Doctor, please, you have to save my daughter. What can we do? The damaged tissue has to be removed, and she'll require a colostomy. The affected area is quite large, so the outcome may not be ideal. There could be complications down the road. I nodded readily. No problem. Take whatever you need to. Saving her life is the most important thing. Karen, looking defeated, could only close her eyes and agree. When it's life or death, the choice is clear. The doctor continued. The man, Leo, his condition is much worse. The area is completely carbonized. It will require total removal. He will be sterile for the rest of his life. You need to be prepared for that. Hearing this, Frank looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. The blood rushed to his head, and he nearly fainted on the spot. After a long moment, a gut-wrenching howl tore from his throat. My son, it's gone. It's all gone. He and Karen had married later in life, each bringing a child from a previous relationship. They couldn't have any more children. In that instant, his entire world came crashing down. Cut it off. Cut it all off. Save his life. Nothing else matters if he's dead, I said calmly, scribbling my signature on the consent forms. Overcome with grief, Frank was practically limp as Karen grabbed his hand and pressed his thumbprint onto the page. The doctor collected the forms. One more thing. The total cost for treatment is estimated to be at least $50,000. We'll need a $10,000 deposit to begin. Suddenly, Frank wasn't dizzy anymore. He and Karen both whipped their heads around to look at me, their meaning unmistakable. They wanted me to be their ATM again. I held up my hands, my voice cracking. All my money goes into a joint account with Chloe. I don't know the password. I even pulled out my phone and showed them my empty Venmo balance. Karen shot a furious glare at Frank. This is all your son's fault. You pay for it. Frank shot back. What do you mean, my son's fault? It was your daughter. I'm not paying. You pay. Karen instantly went into drama queen mode. Oh, woe is me. Where would a poor old woman like me get that kind of money? You and your son are all alike, ganging up to bully a poor widow and her orphan child. Frank's face turned beet red. That's bullshit. What about your pension? Use that to save them. It's not like I won't pay you back. That lit a fire under Karen. She jumped up and started shoving him. You have the nerve to mention my pension? You snake. You secretly transferred your pension to your ex-wife, and now you're after mine. You shameless old hack. I'll tear your face off. Karen shrieked, yanking out a clump of Frank's white hair. The two of them started brawling right there in the waiting room. They knocked over the water cooler, sent chairs and tables flying. Karen, you bitch. My family is ruined because of you two trash. I'll kill you. Frank kicked Karen hard in the stomach, making her double over. Not to be outdone, she raked her nails across his face, leaving deep, bloody scratches. It was an all-out war, a shocking spectacle for everyone watching. Finally, security guards had to come and pry them apart. They were a mess, clothes torn, covered in blood. The doctor walked over, looking utterly exasperated. Are you going to pay for the treatment or not? If you delay any longer, I'll have to issue a critical condition notice. We'll treat them. We'll treat them. Definitely. I said quickly. In the end, Frank and Karen each paid half, basically taking responsibility for their own kid. After they'd swiped their cards, I clutched my chest and made a solemn promise. Dad, Mom, don't worry. As soon as Chloe wakes up, I'll pay you back every penny. The light above the operating room door turned on, and everyone let out a small sigh of relief. But the surgery didn't go smoothly. One notice after another was brought out. I signed every single one without hesitation, with only one instruction. Remove everything you have to. Just keep them alive. At this point, Frank and Karen could only nod along numbly. The doctor, perhaps moved by our decisiveness, promised to do his absolute best. The next day, when the operating room doors finally opened, Frank and Karen rushed in. I walked out of the hospital with a cold smile on my face. I took all the evidence I had to my lawyer and had him draw up divorce papers. You want to be tied together, you trash? Fine. Be tied together forever. I'm done with you. My phone was blowing up with calls from Chloe's number. I didn't have to guess why. They needed more money. I blocked her number. I waited until evening before I returned to the hospital. When I pushed open the door to their room, Frank and Karen were gone. It was just Chloe and Leo. Perhaps because of the new colostomy, the room reeked like a backed-up public toilet. A nurse changing their dressings had her hand over her mouth, rushing to finish before she fled the room. Seeing me, Chloe forced herself to look up, her face pale. "Honey, you're here," she whispered. My face was ice. I slapped the divorce papers down on her bedside table. "Chloe, we're done," I said, my voice low and hard. "You get nothing. The house, the assets, it's all mine." Panic flooded her eyes. "Honey, no. It was a mistake. I was just confused," she pleaded. "Please forgive me, okay? I promise I'll be a good wife from now on. I'll cook for you, I'll clean." I shook my head. "Don't need it. I don't do sloppy seconds. You love Leo, right? I'm doing you a favor. I'm setting you both free." Tears streamed down her face. She tried to sit up to beg some more, but the movement pulled at her stitches. The agony nearly made her pass out, and a fresh wave of stench filled the room. I calmly took out a face mask and put it on. "If you don't sign," I continued, my voice cold, "I'll upload all these videos to the internet and send them to your entire family group chat." Chloe's face went white. "Ryan, you're shameless." "Shameless?" I laughed. "More shameless than what you did." Outside the room, a crowd of gawkers had gathered again. Chloe and Leo were the #1 trending topic online, and people were flocking to the hospital to catch a glimpse. Someone was even live streaming at the door, the camera pointed right at them. "Is that the woman? Ugh, disgusting. How can someone be so vile? Makes me sick." The comments from the hallway made Chloe's face burn. She wished the ground would open up and swallow her. Eventually, the overpowering smell drove the crowd away, and even the neighboring rooms started to complain. "Ryan, I'm not signing. You can forget about it," she hissed. "I've been with you for years. You think you can just kick me to the curb? Don't even think about it." I almost laughed out loud. The woman was still living in a fantasy world. "Then wait for my lawyer to serve you," I said. "And by the way, tomorrow's headlines? They're going to be all about you too." I turned and left. Chloe stared at the papers, and the tears started flowing again. She grabbed the water pitcher from her nightstand and hurled it at the still unconscious Leo. "This is all your fault," she screamed. "Now he knows everything. You've ruined my life." She started throwing anything she could reach at him. The impacts finally roused Leo. He looked at the crazed Chloe, confused. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he mumbled. I think there was a short circuit." Suddenly, a memory seemed to flash in his mind. His expression changed to one of dawning horror. My. At that moment, the effects of the anesthetic must have started to wear off. He tried to sit up, but the movement tore at his own wounds. HHH. Leo let out a piercing shriek, his eyes wide with terror as he looked down under the blanket. His hand darted down and came back covered in blood. A scream even louder and more desperate than before echoed down the entire hospital floor. It's gone. Chloe, you bitch. You ruined my life. It's over." Leo wailed in agony. He grabbed his own water pitcher and started fighting back, screaming curses. Whore. I'll kill you." I stood in the hallway, listening to the symphony of screams from inside, and felt a profound sense of satisfaction. He can't get it up, and she's got a new exit, made for each other. I'd fight anyone who said they weren't a perfect match. I was about to leave when a hospital security guard rushed up to me. "Are you Mr. Miller? Your parents-in-law are fighting with one of the doctors. You better come quick." He looked thrilled as he said it, his eyes dancing with excitement. I followed him to the doctor's office with a frown. Before we even got close, I could hear Karen's shrill voice. "You incompetent quacks. You botched the surgery on my son and daughter, and now you're saying it's not your fault?" The doctor sounded exhausted. "Ma'am, we informed you of all the risks beforehand. You signed the consent forms. I don't care. My daughter is going to be bedridden for the rest of her life. That's on you and your incompetence." Frank chimed in from his side. "That's right. And my son, how is he supposed to live? How is he ever going to get married?" The doctor slammed a thick file on his desk. "See for yourselves. It's all signed in black and white. Are you trying to go back on your word?" Karen grabbed the doctor by his collar, her voice dripping with arrogance. "I don't care about your papers. Your hospital is going to pay us $2 million. Or this isn't over." "Right. My son can't have a family now. Make it $5 million. Frank added. The doctor, though exasperated, patiently opened the file, page by page, pointing to Frank's signature and thumbprint. Frank's face fell. He promptly sat down on the floor and started wailing. "Wah, these heartless doctors are bullying an honest old man. They ruined my son and won't even pay. Everybody, come and see this injustice." A crowd immediately gathered at the office door, and phones came out to record the spectacle. I had truly underestimated the shamelessness of this family. When they couldn't get money from me, they turned on the hospital, throwing tantrums, playing the victim, and causing a scene, thinking they could bully their way into a payout. I took out my phone and, without a second's hesitation, called the police. In the end, Frank and Karen were both detained for a week for disturbing public order. The hospital's procedures were all legal and by the book. There wasn't a single fault to be found. Their demand for compensation went nowhere. In fact, they ended up having to pay $3,000 for the 2 desks they broke during their tantrum. During this time, I kept a low profile. I'd given all the materials to my lawyer and was just waiting for the court's decision. As the weeks passed, the story fermented online. Chloe and Leo became internet celebrities of the worst kind. People would frequently live stream from outside their hospital room, and passersby would spit at their door. The videos had apparently even gone international, gaining a sick sort of notoriety. After Frank and Karen were released, they started wearing masks and hats every time they went to the hospital, only their eyes visible. The whole city was looking for them. Just when I thought it was all about to be over, I got a call from the police. "Is this Mr. Miller, husband of Ms. Chloe? Could you please come to the hospital?" After I hung up, I mentally ran through every detail of what had happened, confirming that none of this could come back to bite me. Then I called an Uber and headed over. At the hospital room, Karen stood waiting, looking at me with eyes that could kill. But there were no police officers in sight. They'd tricked me into coming here. I decided I'd play along and see what their game was. "Ryan, you knew about this all along, didn't you?" There it was. They were coming for me. I put on an innocent face. "Mom, what are you talking about?" "That day, I was at dinner with you guys. You got home before I did." Chloe and Leo were lying in their beds behind her, pretending to be asleep. But it was obvious they had been plotting something. "Chloe gave you the best years of her life," Karen said, her voice turning hard. "Even if you divorce, you have to take care of her for the rest of her life." Finally, the real agenda. I nodded slowly. Of course, because I just love her so much. Karen took my silence as agreement and pressed on, her tone becoming righteous. "You'll sign the house over to Chloe." I nodded again. "No problem." She seemed surprised that I agreed so easily. "And the doctors say their recovery and future treatments will cost a fortune. So you can just pay for your brother-in-law's bills too. And he'll need money to find a wife someday. So just give us another $500,000. You own a company, it's pocket change for you." I had to stop myself from laughing. Find a wife? What woman in her right mind would marry him? But I just nodded again. This was too much even for Leo. He sat bolt upright in bed, no longer faking sleep. "Dude, you're not kidding, right?" My smile was pure ice. "You're the one who's kidding." In an instant, they knew I was mocking them. Their faces fell. Karen's voice was a low snarl. "Ryan, if you don't transfer the money, we're calling the cops. I dare you to say you had nothing to do with this." I held up my hands. "I'll transfer, but not money." I transferred the full, unedited video from my security cameras to the family group chat and to a viral video account online, paying to boost the post. This was the director's cut, not the grainy clips floating around the internet. The family chat instantly exploded. Messages poured in, quickly hitting 99+. "Holy shit, Chloe is a legend. She could be in the Guinness Book of World Records for this. How could our family produce such scum? This is a disgrace to our name." You guys see TikTok? The video is already trending #1. "We're fucked. This is a catastrophe." Karen, thinking the notification was a bank transfer, actually smiled, believing she had one. Then she looked at her phone. Her face went slack. She stared in disbelief before the phone slipped from her grasp and clattered to the floor. "Ryan, you played us?" I just smiled and waved. "You try to play me first. You think I'm an idiot? Then I'm just going to keep bankrolling this family of parasites." Frank suddenly emerged from behind a curtain. "I told you this was a bad idea," he hissed. "This is all your daughter's goddamn fault. I wasted years raising her." Seeing he wasn't getting any money from me, Frank unleashed all his fury on Chloe. "I'll kill you." He slapped Chloe across the face with such force that it knocked her out of the bed. As she fell, her wounds tore open again, and dark, foul-smelling blood seeped through her bandages. "Dad, don't hit Chloe." Leo cried out, a flicker of pity in his eyes. Seeing her daughter get hit, Karen's eyes turned red. She became a cornered lioness. "You dare touch my daughter? I'll kill you both." She lunged forward and kicked Leo squarely on his wounded abdomen. Leo curled into a ball, his body arching like a cooked shrimp, his face turning a dark shade of purple as he tried to protect himself. "Mom, don't hit Leo. It was all my fault." Chloe sobbed, writhing in pain. "Stop it, please. I'm begging you, stop." But Karen was deaf to her pleas, kicking Leo's wounds over and over. Frank immediately joined the fray, attacking Karen. The room descended into utter chaos. Screams, sobs, shrieks of pain roars of rage. I backed out of the room with a cold smile. See? I didn't even have to lift a finger. For a little bit of money, these people would tear each other apart. The commotion quickly attracted attention. In the past few days, Chloe and Leo had become top-tier gossip fodder. The slightest disturbance brought the vultures circling. I pulled on a mask and slipped out a back exit. Later, I heard it took 3 hospital security guards to pull them apart. Leo ended up with 3 broken ribs, his wound a bloody pulp. Karen didn't fare much better. Her leg was broken. Frank was the worst off, his face permanently disfigured. As for Chloe, Frank had landed a few cheap shots, and her internal stitches had apparently ruptured again. She was rushed back into surgery. Soon after, Frank and Karen were arrested for aggravated assault. Chloe and Leo lay in the hospital, undergoing more surgery, their fates uncertain. A month later, the court's judgment came down. For her infidelity and lack of any contribution to the family or my business, Chloe was granted the divorce with absolutely nothing. She was left with only the clothes on her back. At the same time, the verdict for Frank and Karen was delivered. For assault causing severe bodily harm, they were each sentenced to 5 years in prison. The next time I heard news of Chloe was 3 months later. After her parents went to prison, she had apparently lost her mind. She spent her days destroying her hospital room. The colostomy had required another surgery, and the constant, foul smell in the room made her increasingly agitated. The relentless cyberbullying had pushed her over the edge. One night, during a violent thunderstorm, Chloe picked up a fruit knife from her bedside table and stabbed Leo in the chest. In the ensuing struggle, they both tumbled out of the 6th-floor window and fell to their deaths. I sold a house in the suburbs and bought a small condo near my office, pouring all my energy into my company. Women, never again. Not for the rest of my life.